Imagine yourself walking through a park, enjoying your time, minding your own business, and then suddenly, out of the corner of your eye, you see a spider. And even while you're watching this right now, you may have felt a spike in your heart rate by simply seeing an image of a spider. You may be feeling disgusted, scared, or at the very least, caught off guard. And so you should be asking yourself, why did my brain decide that these are the emotions that I'm going to feel? The reason for this is that throughout our lives, we've been influenced by people that may believe that this is an appropriate reaction, or better yet, this is the only appropriate reaction to the experience. We've been taught from a very young age that spiders were meant to be associated with fear. And so whenever we see one, a premeditated script plays in our mind that is not easily avoided. This is very similar to how social anxiety works. We run these premeditated scripts in our mind that are rooted in irrational fears. And I can say that personally, this is something that I've had to deal with throughout my entire life. But what I've done is trained myself to separate my mind from the societal notion of how things should go. And I can say this as someone who used to be deathly terrified of being on camera and also deathly terrified of performing live music. The thought of being looked at or judged or not accepted was always a terrifying feeling. But just like anybody else, I always wanted to become capable of overcoming the fear. And so what I did is essentially throw myself in the fire with regards to trying to get over social anxiety. Whenever I felt like it'd be too scary or too difficult to get up on stage and perform, that was the exact moment that I knew that I had to do it. What I would do is take a step back and look at myself and say, what is really going to happen here? And I could never genuinely rationalize an outcome that was seriously worth believing in. And I will say that this is something that I've been working on for years. I didn't so much as flip a switch and then overcome all fears. And I can say for many people, the greatest form of feeling social anxiety is trying to approach people or make new friends. Very often when we have the opportunity to approach somebody and make a new friend, these scripts start playing in our head that put us into defense mode and tell us, don't do this. You're going to be judged, you're going to embarrass yourself, or worst of all, this person is not going to accept you. And these types of thoughts have been ingrained in us for years, and they are incredibly hard to reverse. But they are just that. They're thoughts. They are not fact. I can say for myself as someone who's been performing live music for the better half of 16 years, as well as also being on camera every single day, these thoughts had no business trying to control my life. And so what can you do? What can you do right now to try and help with social anxiety? I can say that truthfully from the bottom of my heart, that you just have to get started. You just have to try. And I'm going to be honest, the very first time that you put yourself out there, it is going to be very nerve-wracking. But as you do it more and more, you'll recognize and you'll realize that there truly is nothing to be afraid of. And the very powerful question you can ask yourself is, what if somebody who had social anxiety approached you and put themselves out there? Well, you might say to yourself, well, I would accept them. Of course I would. I know how difficult it is to put yourself out there. And I'd do everything within my power to try and make them feel comfortable. And I'd recognize that their attempt of trying to connect with me is welcome. And I will say that this is the thought process that crosses nearly everyone's mind. People want to see you succeed. And when it comes to interacting with people, opposites absolutely do attract. And in my experience of putting myself out there, which I've been doing for the better half of my life at this point, with extreme effort, I can say that it's always been met with a warm heart and open arms. This notion that you are desperately alone and nobody wants to interact with you is entirely made up. It's made up and projected onto us just like our fear of spiders. Somebody told us that social interactions were intimidating. And for many of us, we've believed it our entire lives. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's easy to try and reprogram your entire belief system, but just know that you have the power and the option to do so.